Hi, I'm Karen Downing Ripley, and I invite you to join me on a recent, unexpected side trip to Brittany, France, during the 80th anniversary of the city of Plélo's remarkable liberation celebration, and learn why Bretons and Americans remember and honor our shared DNA of World War II. A last-minute decision to deliver my father's World War II documents to the city of Plélo, France, opened me up to an amazing experience that has truly changed my life. I ask that you join me so that you too can know and appreciate how we Americans are respected and revered because our ancestors fought to liberate the town of Plélo in August 1944. Thank you for joining me for another episode of You Were There, Karen Beth. To learn more about the amazing success of Patton's Third Army, 15th Cavalry, Reconnaissance Troop B, in liberating the town of Plélo in Brittany, France during World War II. There are many stories in Brittany about what happened in World War II to their communities and their families, but there is one story that Bretons in the town of Plélo have never forgotten. Once that story was told by the former Mayor of Plélo. Here's his account of what happened on that fateful day that Plélo was liberated on August 7, 1944. He said, "I remember as if it were yesterday, the night between the 6th and 7th of August, 1944. It was an hour after we had finished our evening meal when we saw a column of routed Germans coming into the town square. A few moments later, by this time it's nightfall, a truck full of men from the resistance coming from Avignon has fallen, nose to nose, upon the German column. Immediately, many shots from one side and the other. The resistance men have been forced to take shelter in the houses and courtyards, visibly outdone by the number and power of the German shots. After the attack, the Germans have but one concern: to find the resistance fighters who might be hiding inside the houses. We spent all night checking on the comings and goings of the Germans in the street, without them ever entering our farmyard. But at dawn, wagon drivers from the neighboring town requisitioned and then released by the Germans, who had spent the night in my parents' horse stall, got up and washed up a bed at the well in the middle of the courtyard. At that moment, a German soldier went on the road, and seeing these men, he mistook them for terrorists. He immediately went to inform his superiors, and a few minutes later, a German detachment came, thinking they would find the guerrillas there. They came in and searched the house. It was at that time that I was picked up together with the house handyman. We were both hiding in a room and were then marched off rudely into the yard. The 6 men from the stable, and us 2, were taken into the town, being told that we needed to remove some dead horses from the square. We wondered, was that really their intention with us? Having gone so suddenly from the house, I found myself in the street with just my slippers on. I wanted, therefore, to get back to the house to put on other shoes. Halfway along, and unseen by the sentry who was leading us, I quickly turned around, and moving right along, I immediately returned to the yard at our farm. Upon getting there, I saw lined up in front of the house my parents, my sisters, and a woman who worked for us, and in front of them, a group of Germans. But right then, the German captain, seeing me coming, seized me roughly by the arm and shoved a pistol under my nose, treating me with "Terrorist kaput." My mother intervened then, explaining to the officer that I was just 15 years old. The officer answered, "Russ," still holding on to me. At this precise moment, a German soldier who had been at the gate by the road called out to the officer, "American tank!" The Germans disappeared in a flash, leaving us all there, still alive. We quickly went back inside and soon heard the shooting. The 5 tanks of Lieutenant Hamsley came into action. This fight did not last long, for the means deployed by either side were quite disproportionate. A number of Germans are killed, 30 to 40. The rest quickly surrendered to the Americans and the Frenchmen from the resistance who were there with them, not seeing any chance to escape the massacre. The nightmare was over. We were finally free. A great big thanks to Lieutenant Hamsley for his rapid intervention. For a few minutes later, the town of Plélo and its inhabitants would cease to exist. In fact, several groups of townspeople were lined up along the walls in front of a firing squad. And I learned later that the Germans had been getting ready to set the town on fire. After the fight, Lieutenant Hamsley's 5 tanks and men gathered in the town square among the thanks and applause of the people of Plélo. They filled up their fuel tanks and made a quick review of their equipment, and soon left to resume their original itinerary. When I was in Plélo for the 80th anniversary of the liberation, I heard many such stories shared by the descendants whose ancestors had endured harrowing near-death experiences in Plélo throughout the war. How amazing it must have been for them to hear the 5 American Sherman tanks rumbling down the road, echoing off the houses, as they charged into town to knock off the artillery and vanquish the Germans. How understandable that the townspeople wanted to show their appreciation for Lieutenant Hamsley and his men. Join us for the next episode of You Were There, Karen Beth, and learn more of why the brave and voluntary acts of Lieutenant Hamsley and his men are remembered and revered as liberators every year in the city of Plélo.